Mexican Sunday leagues just for fun. It's so sick. But they're always like, calm down. And I'm always like, what do you mean? They're like, you're going too fast. Because I like want to go. I like want to play with high intensity. And they're like, just relax. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. Like, my bad, you know? But like, it's, you know, that I like that. I like that vibe, you know? It's interesting. But anyways, here we are back. Next episode, Hometown FC podcast. We got Christian Hernandez in the house.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, dude, we're happy to have you here, my friend.
Sure. I been able to work with him a little bit. My experience with him is that, you know, he's a really good mind for the game, understanding for youth development. So when you said we were gonna get him on board, I was like, heck yeah.
Yeah, dude. I've known Christian since like when I started. I started at Rising and you were like already there. You were killing it. You were somebody I was like shadowing almost at first. And I just remember you were on like the pre-academy teams, like the teams that were gonna go right before the MLS transition. Mm-hmm. And so you were basically like preparing them for that transition. So you had those groups and it was like always like elite. What stood out to me was you're always very intense. You're very oriented on technique and technical, which I think is huge. Like we were talking the other day about, you know, we're both working at AZ Soccer Lab on the side, which is like a private training facility. And my God, dude, like if that didn't exist, like God knows like where these kids would be, because I don't think like clubs are focusing at all on ball mastery anymore. I think they just like put on a session and then they think the kids will just learn the technique as time goes on, but it's not true. Like I think you got to focus on it.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like the trend, from what I noticed, there is a lot of good trainers that are trying to do it, but are not really focusing on the detail behind the ball mastery stuff. So, for example, if you're going to do a certain ball mastery skill, it's, all right, knowing the why. I'm really huge on the why. Like, why are you doing that skill? Like, what scenarios could you do those certain skill or that ball mastery skill in an area of a field, 1 or 2, what scenario that might be. So coaches will try to do it. The intent is right, but it's not executed in the right way, in my opinion. So the AZ Soccer Lab stuff, for sure. Like, to me, it's the only place in Arizona, unfortunately, that it's 1, club neutral, 2, that has a lot of trainers there that all have played the game, have a great understanding of the game, and literally just pushes just touches, ball mastery, scenarios of games, and just reps, let alone, right? Because now I think we're just kind of going into the world of like, okay, yeah, it's great to be in a good team setting or whatever team setting you might be, but now you need to get the individual specific training, right? Whether if you're a first team elite level player or down to even rec, like just getting started, it's just like, all right, where's your foundation on whatever like position that you want to be? Let's say you're a kid that is a center mid that needs the reps of the 180 turn, or sometimes is it the one touch pass, whatever that may be. So there's not a lot of specific training stuff that I think a lot of players are not doing, and that's what kind of lacks a little bit of AZ in a way.
So, question, because I'm curious, could you give us an example of one of those situations you're talking about where, okay, they have a move, right? When would you use a certain move at a certain time? Because I have one in my mind that kind of, I don't know, it drives me crazy sometimes that players will do a certain move, but I'd love to hear if you have an example of a certain move where like, hey, this is when you apply it in a game. This is the situation.
Right. I'll just kind of put like, all right, let's say an outside back or a wing back per se. You're just using the line as a guide, right? So like if you're gonna do a certain skill, let's say a lot of coaches, a lot of trainers, and a lot of training practices, you're gonna do the step over to the outside touch, right? I'm like, okay, realistically, when can you actually do that? One, like let's say you're the right back, you're driving down the line, and you're gonna do that little step over to outside touch. Well, now if you do that, your back is facing away from the actual field. Like, when can you actually do that? And let's just say you're actually going negative, right? And you receive a ball, you're going negative, and you do that, but you don't have that much room, right? You're using the line, you're hugging the line a little bit. And if you do that, you're always taking your touches into the player, right? And so, like, for me, I'm just like, okay, well, it's great that you're doing that, but to me, I think foundational skill to do that is what I call a U-turn. It's literally it's you're driving and you're stepping on the ball. It's kind of like a pullback, but then you're literally dragging the ball in front, and then you just do like it's kind of like a 2-footed V, like right foot to left foot here or there, and you're driving now inside, opposed to then doing that skill you're taking your touches away from the player. It's like those little details, right? So like if a player comes in and they tell me like, all right, a boy or girl, I play outside back. I'm like, okay, let me give you situational things of like, all right. And thankfully at Easy Soccer Lab, they have the lines, and it looks like, if you've never been to it, it's kind of like they'll have like the actual pitch size field, and it's kind of all laid out, and you're only depending on how much traffic there is there. So meaning if it's a busy day, a busy night or whatever, you're only given one half, so you're confined in one small space, but you can literally do anything position specific there. And so I'll have a player, great example, I won't mention names, but great example, they'll go and I'm like, okay, I'll tell them like, okay, we're going to do this as a scenario. We're going to go into the mini goal, which this is like a center mid player that you're trying to play a ball into, right? And I'll play a ball in, it's kind of situational, and I will tell them straight away, it's just like, all right, give me something that you would do to take your directional touches away from a pole player, whatever, and go into that mini goal. And they'll do like certain skills, and I'm just like, you're not gonna do that in games, like realistically. So it's just like, all right, just be effective. And what's the difference between being skillful and effective? Or like, all right, be effective with just the little time that you have to just go and execute your one little action that you're gonna do, right? Because you're gonna be doing those repetitive actions a lot. So you're just gonna have to execute no matter what you. So to your long-winded answer, that's kind of like one that I will say, but there's many scenarios that I can kind of discuss and talk about kind of all day about. But
I think it's like coming down to knowing your role, because I think a lot of players, they understand I'm starting at right back. This is my position. But we talked about the other day, like you don't know what that actually means, like the principles of playing that position. And I see players get into a lot of trouble because a coach will go, okay, you're a center mid, but they're not teaching them the principles of being a center midfielder and what that means, like at a 6 or whatever, like being a pivot. Are you prepared to only play 2-touch the entire game? Right? Because if you don't, like the turn you said, if you're doing a step over or you're doing, scissors, like, are you supposed to be doing scissors as a 6? So I think you're right with the position specific ball mastery training is, if you're a wing, I love it. Teach them like scissors, every move in the book, dude, because when you're out there, you're there to entertain. You're there to create goal scoring opportunities. You're there to score goals. Because at the end of the day, like nobody cares if you're a wing and you're like connecting passes. Everyone's like, cool, but like, are you on the score sheet? But if you're a 6, like, can you do the half turn and play it? Like, are you scanning 8 to 10 times? Can you take the ball from right to left, like your U-turn, like those kind of things? Like that kind of stuff is not being taught in clubs. I think it's the biggest failure from clubs is that they're saying they're teaching players positions, but they're not teaching them the principles of those positions. Like as a right back, tactically, like you need to know when to overlap or underlap, right? The wings. You need to know when to connect with the 10, when to connect with the wing, when to overlap. In some circumstances now you're having some people telling fullbacks to not overlap or underlap because you want to get the results in a certain way. You want to be more defensive. And so it also comes down to like, are you prioritizing as a club, like development or results? Because if you're prioritizing results, yeah, you're going to teach a completely different way of playing. You're going to want robots. But if you are trying to teach development, It's a totally different thing. It's a totally different thing. Ball mastery, all that becomes a huge, huge priority because it's not tactics and decision making. You know, tactical and decision making is not creating robots at 12 years old that look like Man City. Tactics is knowing why and when you're doing something and making good decisions, right? If you have a bunch of 12-year-olds that look like Man City, but they're all robots, you take them out of that system and they can't
play a different system or play a different
right.
way of playing. Yeah.
Like if you're a fullback, like cool. Are you a fullback in a 4-3-3, a 4-4-2, a 3-5-2? Totally different in every circumstance. Totally different role. Are you a 6 in a 4-4-2? Are you a 6 in a 4-3-3? Are you a 6 in a 3-5-2? Totally different. So it's like, yeah, you're a center midfielder. Cool. What's next? And assuming that kids can't learn those things is like completely idiotic. It's BS, dude. Like you can teach these kids about that stuff at a young age and they'll pick it up. You just got to have some sort of charisma about you that makes them excited to learn it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, what I call that is actually, it's a term like position responsibility. So whenever you go into, like, let's say you coach a team, or honestly, you're training just an individual player, like on privates or whatever, you end up asking them, do you know what your responsibilities are as that position? And I, honest, like so many of them, when I was at Soccer Lab, well, still am at Soccer Lab, but for the past year when I stepped away from club for the year, I trained so many different levels of kids. It's been crazy because now almost coaching a decade to then stopping, but going back to it, so many of them would just be like, no, I don't know. Like, I don't know what to do. I'm just like, that. And to me, that's just going back to your point of the club development. That to me, I mean, clubs can only do so much, but it just comes down to the coach, in my opinion. So the coach having a lack of guidance to players on what the position actually entails or what they want them to do. Because once you go in the weekend in the game, and I mean, I've seen so many of you guys as well, like you'll probably walk by going into game to game, or you're just kind of out the fields, and you just kind of see like a coach that's just kind of losing their minds, or just kind of say something that you kind of catch, like you're not really paying attention to it, but it catches your eye because you're just like, what are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
And
because they want to lift up some stupid fucking plastic trophy at the end of the day. It's like, who fucking cares? Like it's not the Champions League, dude. You know, like get over yourself. You're going to lift up some stupid plastic trophy that means nothing and you're going to like ruin this kid's day. You're teaching them nothing. And then all of a sudden you're pissed because they get it wrong. And you sit them on the bench after they make one mistake. Like get over yourself. Like it's not about that. You know, it's a huge problem. I see it all the time, and I laugh at those coaches, and they ruin these kids' days, man. And they and they don't even realize like the pay-to-play system. It's like all about player retention. So they're just like, you know, at the end of the day, it's like you can't even like really give these kids honest feedback in that system because you're scared they might leave sometimes. And then, you know, at the other hand, it's like, well, it's not just the coach's fault because the coaches in today's world, like, man, we're all treated like weekend warriors. Like we're treated like here's 3 teams, here's 4 teams, do your job. Well, first of all, none of us are built to operate like that. You know what I mean? Like we're all like, we get overwhelmed. We don't have like, oh, and then they're complaining like, my kid's not getting individual feedback. It's like, I have 4 teams, dude. You know how many kids, how am I possibly going to give each kid individual feedback when these clubs want to like pay you peanuts to and they also want to overwork you instead of just being like, here, man, I want you to take this team, one team, and I want you to develop these freaking players really, really well. And I want you to give each kid individual feedback. And you're going to have plenty of time to do that because you're going to have one team and we're going to support you. And we're all, at the end of the week, we're all going to talk about each team together and everyone's going to have one team. Imagine that system.
Yeah, but I like to play devil's advocate is that it's sometimes still on the coach because they decide to take on that second, third, fourth team because, I mean, this is a whole topic of discussion alone is that some coaches like to piggyback to what you said, the financial side of it with coaches, like, all right, you want to just have the one team? Well, this is X amount that you're getting paid. And you're just like, well, I love to coach. Now you have another day job or whatever. So then you're going from one full day of responsibilities to then at night having to coach and be responsible with a group of kids. There's a disconnect. And so so a lot of it is still on the coaches taking on that third, fourth team. It's hard.
Yeah.
Because you're just like, well, what about the coach that is just like, I love the game so much, but I want to financially like take care of myself. I want, like, for me, soccer is my only full-time job. And I did that. I was like, I want to be able to coach as many teams as I could because financially to support myself. And this is what I call is my calling. But I felt like, all right, well, if I'm going to take on these three teams, like, I better to give every single one of these kids as much as I can in terms of individual feedback. And it's a lot of time, a lot. And that's where the clubs don't support as much. It's just like, well, I need the time to do that individual reports and stuff like that, like individual development plans, IDPs, whatever that you want to call. It's difficult, but you have to put in the time still. But that's the devil's advocate thing.
Yeah. Coaches, in my opinion, like, should be treated as teachers, not weekend warriors. Like, we shouldn't be treated as like, we should be literally, like, we talked the other day about how Spanish coaches like are very, very, intent on getting their education, so that they become better teachers of the game. And I think that first of all, this opens up a whole different can of worms because I think the licenses in America are way too expensive. I think that the path to getting through them is difficult, but at the same time, we should all be teachers. We should not be organizers. And that's where I think, just to push back on that a little bit, is like, if you have 4 teams and a club is willing to give you 4 teams or 3 teams, number one, they obviously think very highly of you. They're going, I want this guy coaching as many of the kids in this club as possible. He's got a good reputation. He does well. But how much are you watering down that guy of what makes him special when you give him that much responsibility? And how much are you becoming, like, let's just say at next level, right? We had combined sessions. So it would be like first team, second team, training group. At that point, you're an organizer. You're not a teacher. How am I going to teach in an hour and 15 minutes, so 75 minutes? How am I going to teach 40 kids what they need to know? You're an organizer at that point, in my opinion. And I don't think coaches should be organizers or facilitators. You are 2 of the smartest soccer minds I've ever met in my life. Like, that's why we're here. That's why I wanted to be here with you guys. But be honest, how often do you get to teach? Like, what percentage of the time are you spending teaching during not your individual training? Because that's all about teaching. And I've seen you and you, we get to teach 100% of the time in those. But I mean, and maybe to make it a little bit broader, how many training sessions are you around where coaches are actually teaching and they're not just organizing? I'll start with you, Zach. What do you think?
Not around. Not including me? Like, so if I'm seeing other sessions?
Yeah, you and the sessions that you're around. Like,
so I do 1, 2, 3, 4. So I do 16 sessions a week.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'm probably doing, where I'm teaching, breaking down concepts, minute, probably 8 or 9. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I will say that a couple of them are more of repeat where they know what they're doing, so I can get them going. But 8 or 9, I would say that a lot more other coaches that I'll see, and it can be from my former club and from my other former club in Virginia, majority of the time, I mean, even if they have only one team, it's not really teaching. I've seen some crazy sessions where I'm just thinking that should probably be refunded. I mean, it's But I mean, I get your point there where I know exactly where I'm thinking, okay, if I'm breaking this down into a certain session and I'm explaining it for it's a universal, as I like to say, individual habits, right? There are team habits and then there are individual habits. And there are certain things that every single player needs to know. So when I do my position play games, right, there's individual habits that we talk about. We go and say, okay, I can go and break that down and say, focusing on playing the way you face. Unless you hear absolutely clearly and you've been scanning that you're able to turn, you should be playing the way you face. But you play the way you face because you have a bad body profile, right? If you're facing straight up at the ball, you don't have any right to turn unless, again, you hear very clearly, turn. If you have a good body profile where the rules of APFC are, you should see the ball and the opponent's goal at all times. Then good body profile, you can play in many directions, right? So that's a good habit. But how many times do I actually get to go and break that down to the minute details on things to really help the kids understand? Yeah, probably about half the time, which, again, that's half of the time missed.
Yeah.
So.
And you coach the older age groups. So a lot of your teaching is tactical, whereas Christian, you teach the younger age groups where a lot of your teaching needs to be technical. And I think after starting at AZ Soccer Lab, it really blew my mind, the failure of clubs to teach technical. I think the biggest failures in order are first touch, weak foot, and body profile. Those are the three biggest failures from clubs. I see so many kids that are like, they have no weak foot. Their first touch is 10 feet off their foot if it's a really good punched in pass, and their body profile is never right. And they are almost like starting at like -10. Just to get them to 0 is like really, really hard. So how much time do you prioritize? I know you do, but like how much time do you, let's just say in a session, prioritize teaching details of technical, and then how much of it is just playing and getting the reps?
Great question. I would say a lot of the coaches' failures when it comes to like technical or tactical teaching. So I look at it where, to me, there's multiple different types of coaches, but there's a lot of coaches that are like the cheerleaders that just fucking like all rah, all that stuff, right? And then there's the teacher coach, where it's like a little bit of both. Like you can get on them a little bit, but then you start have what I like to call is like a freeze moment. You're looking for the right moment to like pause the activity and then teach. So, and that just comes down to planning.
And that's tactical though, right? That's a tactical teaching moment.
It can be, and it can be a technical teaching moment.
So you can stop training and go, look, your foot needs to be on the toe fly, up, heel down, or whatever. Mm-hmm. You would freeze for that?
No, it just depends. So like whatever session objective that you're doing, it just kind of depends, right? So to me, every single session should have an objective and should always have a topic. So whatever that you want to work on, let's say you're focusing on a transitioning to defend piece, right? You've built out a layout of that topic, but then you see like a technical error. You can either do it in two ways. If you constantly see multiple kids doing a technical error, I will stop it and just be like, what are we doing? Like, what are the little details of having to technically execute that? Then it just becomes an overall thing. But if it's just like one or two, maybe three kids, do it on the fly, because you don't. The best advice I was given is like, you do not want to stop sessions as much as, because kids don't care. Like they want to play, but to you as a coach, you're just like, well, when is it a good moment to freeze it on whatever topic that you want to discuss? But if it's like one of those things that you can just fix on the fly, just do it.
Yeah. Is that a problem though? Like, is it a problem? Because I noticed that too, that kids to me seem less coachable now. Like they're like almost frustrated when the coach freezes it. And it's like, it's almost like the culture of getting them excited about learning is like absent. And I think a lot of it is because they've had coaches that really weren't worth the salt, like in their past. And then all of a sudden they do have a coach that can actually teach them something, but they're already so preconditioned to like shut off that they're becoming less coachable, because they're like, I don't want to hear what this guy says. I just want to play. But just playing is like a myth. Like, I truly believe that kids are not going to learn everything they need to know by just playing. I think they do need to be taught, because I'm seeing more and more. I used to think that. I'm like, oh, just let them play. The game will figure it out. That's not true. They'll just practice bad habits and they won't work on their weaknesses. If you stop it and you can actually like teach them something that they're doing wrong and they're open to it, and they're not upset about it or hot-headed about it or just turning you off, I think that that's huge. Like, so I think building that trust, like, look, I know it's not great to stop, but when you do freeze the training, like, it's important that they soak it in and that you have something intelligent to like teach them at the same time.
Yeah, at the end of the day, the players are human, so they're gonna have a human reaction of whatever. So in this case, like you coach a range of all ages, right? So then for me, have a wide range of like, all right, of a reaction of a 17-year-old boy to a 9-year-old girl
And a 35-year-old guy.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's just,
I'm coaching a guy who literally, I played against him in college.
Yeah.
He's one of my players. And so like the point you're making, right? If I'm talking to a 9-year-old girl and I'm explaining things to her, I have to say it in a kinder voice and a tone. It might be the same mistake, because I remember when I took the UPSL job, and oh man, these guys are gonna know everything. Like, what can I teach them? And I find out, oh no, you still mess up on the very basics of everything. Like, and I would go and do technical work with them, and I just went, the 10-year-olds can do this stuff. What's going on? And then they kind of get humbled there. But like you're saying, it's a softer voice. And then with the 17-year-olds, it's, hey, come on, we know better. And then with the UPSL guys, then you'd almost think it's more intense, but it's not. It's actually in between the 17-year-old and the 9-year-old, because the 17-year-old, you're still high enough where they go and say, yes, coach. But the 35-year-old, you have to talk to him, hey, dude, come on. We know this. You are at a certain level, so that they don't go and say, who the heck is this guy? He's the same age as me, this and that. How dare he talk to me like that, right? So it's always weird, like you're saying, find that balance of being nice, be demanding, but obviously still respectful, where they respect that you are the leader there, and then saying, all right, I got to figure out a way to talk to a guy who's around my age, who knows that I'm trying to help him. I'm not being a jerk and trying to act like I'm above him.
Yeah, I sound like a broken record because I've said this before, but I feel like our job walks right on the line of honesty and kindness.
Yes.
Yeah. It's like, how do you not be an asshole, like, or, but tell them the truth? And with a 9-year-old, I've never coached 9-year-olds. Actually, no, I did for a little bit, but I coached 12-year-olds last season. And like, yeah, it was tougher, because you don't want them, number one, like, you want them to be brave and be confident. And I think the number one way to like just kill a kid's confidence is to you can't like lay into those kids. Like, you have to do it in a way where you are, I guess, like almost like a parent, like a father or something, whereas like the 17-year-olds, when I was coaching them, multiple times I had to be like, I'm Christian, I don't know if you remember when we were at Rising, when I had a player who was like talking back to me at training.
Oh, I do remember this moment. I did go up to you after that, yeah.
And I had to basically I was like, if you don't want to be here, like, you can just get the fuck off the field and go home. Like, you're off the team. Mm-hmm. Goodbye. And he walked away, and he came back about 15 minutes later, and he looked at me and he's like, I'm sorry, man. I love you. And I was like, I love you too, man, But it was like that moment where I was like, there was like, there's that moment that your team, you could lose the locker room. Mm-hmm. If you don't hold certain players accountable on your team. You could lose a team just like that. It happens all the time. So, and because there's kids on the team that like, there's that one dude where he's a little bit loud. And if you don't get that kid on the right track, like, the rest of the team will look at you like you're kind of weak. And so that was like that moment. And I was like, you're done, dude. I was like, you're off the team. Like, get off the field. Have your mom pick you up. I don't care. And yeah, And then after that, we were chill for the rest of the season. He went on to like make MLS or whatever the next year. But it was a cool moment because I was like, with those 17-year-olds, like they're testing you more than a 35-year-old would test you. A 35-year-old has a little bit of wisdom, been through life. You talk to them like we talk to each other. Wisdom, like foresight, a little bit of just healthy dose of respect. Yeah. They don't know how to, they're pushing their boundaries, dude. They don't even know what respect is yet.
I just had a talk with a 23, 24-year-old just last night after training. Comes up to me after practice, says, hey, coach, can I just talk to you real quick? Yeah, sure. What's up, man? He goes and says, look, I'm not questioning your decision to not start me yesterday. I actually agree with it. I don't think I've earned that. And I get why you made that call, but I'm just wondering, like, what is it going to take for me to get that starting spot back? And I was just, that's the whole honesty and, you know, being kind. And I just said, honestly, I got to tell you, you've been doing well, but the question is, are you doing well because you're coming off the bench and you're killing it because everyone's tired, or are you going to be able to do well when I put you back in the starting lineup? And that's where I've been hesitant. And he said, that's fair. I can respect that. That's fair. And I'm not mad about it. I just wanted to get your thoughts. And I said, I will give you a start, but you have to show that you will be as influential from the start as you are when I put you in 10 minutes in the second half.
Dude, not starting hurts, man.
Yeah.
Starting
that was
hurts.
Awesome that he was able to come up to me, but then I had to be very honest because here he is being very open and very vulnerable, right?
Yeah.
Saying, hey, tell me how it is. Honestly,
you handled that well.
But will you do well at the start? I don't know yet because I gave you the start a few times and it was And then you come on the last couple games and you're killing it.
Right. Something to prove.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting, dude. I mean, if you could snap your fingers right now and change one thing about U.S. soccer and youth development, what would it be? Just snap your fingers right now.
Scrap it.
Yeah.
I've thought about this a lot. It's just... Actually, no, I'll take that back. It's just more of and it just needs to be an alignment. I should say, if there's just one word, just align it all together. Because there's just too many, it's too spaced out. It's all over the place. And so there's no set pyramid, per se, that you kind of want to put it down to. It's like one big pyramid, but there's multiple mini pyramids around inside of that pyramid. So all it is just probably just alignment. It's just to fix that, honestly. So once you get that down, there just needs to be set rules and boundaries and expectations of what, I mean, I say that pretty broadly because I'm not trying to say like I have the right way, but I'm just need to say that I think in life, like there just needs to be some bit of structure. And if there's one organization or one league or one set of tournaments just does their own little thing, it just goes all over the place.
And you're referring to basically the split between MLS and ECNL, where they're both kind of fighting for the same spot. Whereas, like, if they were all kind of combined, we could get more of all of the players more in a more going in the right direction.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with having these leagues. It's just, I would just say, it's just like, okay, if you're gonna have these leagues, I don't know, maybe in a different world, like you have these inner league or external leagues. Some would do like all right, like you've won, like I know that like MLS Next is pretty unique. ECNO, they have the ECNO playoffs and stuff like that. MLS Next have like these little events, like the Flex event and all that stuff, and they have and they somehow, I mean, you can kind of, all right, let's say you're the best team that won like in the ECNL, like in the playoffs, and MLS Next, like you say you done well in the Flex event or whatever, like have them compete against each other. My biggest problem that I have is that these teams are not playing against each other to make them better. Like we've always discussed, is like iron sharpens iron, but you're not playing against some of the better teams per se, right? Like there's a lot of great ECNL clubs.
Oh yeah,
great
Legends,
ECNL teams.
I'll go on the record saying Legends is the best team I played last year.
And they're an ECNL club.
They're an ECNL club, like better than every MLS academy that I played. like by a pretty substantial margin. They were like, it felt like there was no way to beat them. Right. Whereas like I figured out like LAFC, LA Galaxy, I was like, I could figure it out. That team was ridiculous. I mean, Crossfire, dude, look at Crossfire. Mm-hmm. There's not an age group where Crossfire isn't in like the top 20 in the country. They are ridiculously good. What else? Who else is good ECNL? Legends, Crossfire come to mind. Those are like the two.
Scott Gallagher was part of it, but I know they just kind of moved to full. I think they went to full-time MLS now.
Okay.
So for this upcoming season,
yeah.
Or this past season, I believe. And so yeah, there's a lot. Like I mean, that's just what I think is just like these teams need to be competing against each other in some way, shape, or form. And that's why like tournaments are great. Like you have like your surfs tournaments, right? Like obviously they have a bunch, but like their biggest ones, like you play like Club America, ex Man City, or even now Man City. That's when they have those unique times where they do play against each other, and you're just like, wow, like this ECNL club beat this MLS club.
Yeah.
Who cares?
Yeah.
Like they're a good team.
Yeah.
They're good. Like, why not play against each other? The biggest problem I have is like in California, they can get away with it because everyone are pretty much like an ECNL club can compete against an MLS club, MLS to MLS, ECNL, like, and they're gonna be good.
Mm-hmm.
Problem that I have, obviously, us living in Arizona is like it's too spread out. Like I have, like there's so many. I'll just kind of say it on the girl side. Like I don't coach on the girl side, but I see it. It's like it looks like they're avoiding. Same thing on the boy side. They're avoiding certain teams to not compete against each other.
Oh yeah.
But then they want to compete out of state or what. Like you can play in state.
Yeah.
Play against each other 6 times in one season, and you're gonna get better. And and then people have this saying like, oh, we can't compete against California or Texas or whatever. You just like, we're playing against subpar teams because you want to play up.
Yeah.
And play in the second bracket.
Yeah.
A second tier. And you're not competing against of what the level that they could probably get better at. Which I mean,
in LA, just a normal everyday game is like equivalent to the biggest tournament final in Arizona.
Yeah,
you know, because it's just like TFA will just play Galaxy on like a random day, and then TFA will play Legends, and then Legends will play Galaxy, and then you're just like, that's what. How are you gonna compete with a team that's their regular schedule?
Here's the thing. Like, I remember when I was at my other club, I had a conversation with the director, and he was saying, hey, you know, we have to make sure if we get this platform, we got to compete. You know, Irvine Strikers, EA beat our ECNL team. And I just went, you know, isn't that crazy that when I was growing up, like that's their second team because Irvine Strikers has MLS Next. Irvine Strikers' second team is beating our top team, whereas when I was growing up, our top teams were beating the top team in California. I remember my friend Kyle and all of them were on the 90 ODP, and they beat the 89 Cal South. That was when ODP mattered.
Yeah.
That was when the top dogs played.
When it was legit.
And they beat a year older Cal South. And I'm looking at that and wait, we've dropped our standards so much that now we are just trying to survive against the second team of Irvine Strikers. And don't get me wrong, Irvine is a great club, fantastic club, but that is where we are now. We're like, oh my gosh, we got to make sure our ECNL team can beat their second team. And back when I was playing, it was, you know, we would go over there, we set up scrimmages, and there's teams there that don't exist anymore, but they were really good back then. They were top 5 in the country. This team, Celtic, and this other team, Barcelona from Pasadena, and then Rampage. And those guys, all top 5. We would go California for a weekend, scrimmage them, kind of like what you did when you went and played LA Galaxy and Legends and them. And then a month later, they'd come over and they'd scrimmage us, and they'd scrimmage Cisco Toros, and they'd scrimmage Sereno Golden Eagles. And we'd just go back and forth. But now I have a kid that just came from a club, and I said, oh, hey, congrats. I saw you guys clinch playoffs for ECNL. And the parent said, yay, we had to go over there and play against a team that was 900th in the country.
Right.
And I'm like, how is that ECNL?
Yeah.
You're playing against a team that's 900th in the country.
Yeah.
When did it become every club National League?
Because it's about player retention now. Now
it's supposed to be elite club National League.
Supposed to be. But I think that's player retention.
Yeah.
I think that is truly the fundamental flaw is like these clubs, how do I keep the kids in the club? How do I keep them in the system? How do I retain full teams in each age group, 3, 4, 5 teams deep. And the only way to do that now is to do what you just said.
Yeah.
Put the 900th team in the country in EA. And I'm not talking shit about those parents or those kids that are in those teams. It's not their fault. It's just the system. It's the system that we've created.
But I think, if I was to go and, I wouldn't say the whole soccer landscape. It's just Arizona specifically, right? Because I think for us, it's an Arizona problem because you grew up around the same time. We were competing with California teams back then.
Oh, yeah.
The top teams.
Mm-hmm.
We were neck and neck with them, right? We were better than them.
Sometimes.
In most cases, like we beat them in regionals for my last year. And they had the U17 national captain, they had the U17 national forward, and we were beating them. The thing is how often, I remember them going surf. I remember surf coming to Sereno Pro Classic and Sereno Soccer Classic. And the deal was, hey, you guys, Sereno and Cisco and Arsenal, you guys are going to come to Surf Cup, and we're going to come to the Sereno Pro Classic and Soccer Classic for you guys. When do you ever see San Diego Surf come to an Arizona tournament now? I haven't seen one.
But why would they?
Exactly. That's the point, because we have kept ourselves like this, and like you were saying, how can we compete against a team like Surf or Legends or LA Galaxy consistently when they get to play each other and we go and say, yeah, we're going to play the third rising team. We're going to go and play Arsenal down the street. And yes, we're all decent clubs, but how do you compare when we're always going to say, no, we'll just play here and we'll play this New Mexico team, we'll play this Colorado team, and these teams are 800th in the country while Surf is playing a team that's 5th in the country every week, right? And we don't open ourselves up to the opportunity of, hey, how about we drive over there, or even just drive to Yuma, go halfway, pay for the referees, rent a field, and play against them. But they're trying to find this balancing act, and I've seen it firsthand where these directors are trying to find a balancing act of keeping the costs down while trying to stay competitive. So, oh, no, we can't go to that tournament. That's going to be too much on the parents. I get it. Oh, but let's drive to New Mexico and play a team that's just no good. And, we can play that one league game and come back and, hey, look, we qualified. Right?
Yeah.
But we've fallen so far behind in Arizona compared to where we used to be. And yet you'd think we'd be so far ahead because we have, 2, 3 MLS Next programs and 3 ECNL programs? Arsenal, FC Tucson, maybe it's just 2?
Well, FC
And
Tucson.
CCV.
And CCV.
Well, FC Tucson went to MLS 2. They're no longer part of ECNL.
Okay.
So this leads to I'm going to answer my own question that I have for Christian. If I could snap my fingers and change anything, it would 100% be that winning means anything before 16 years old. All of these stupid tournaments where you win a plastic trophy mean nothing. And we're wasting our time playing 40 or 50 meaningless games a year when we should be playing more meaningful games like the ones we're talking about. And we should look at soccer before 16 as soccer school and education. Because what I see is a bunch of mediocre teams with mediocre players, not their own fault. They have sloppy first touches. They have sloppy decision making. They have no weak foot. And they're prioritizing winning on the weekend to retain players rather than working on the weak foot, working on body profile, working on the first touch, and getting high quality games. And that, if I could snap my fingers, would be the biggest change. Scrap it. After 16 years old, yes, winning does mean something because now all of a sudden you could go professional. And if you're on a winning team that's winning things nationally, that's where you're going to be scouted, and that makes sense. Before that, it should be looked at as an education, as almost like sending your kid to school, sending your kid to soccer school every night. And we should all be treated as teachers, not coaches. Because like you said, you can be a cheerleader and teach them nothing. You can be the rah-rah guy, and guess what? That kid didn't learn his role. He didn't understand his responsibility. He doesn't understand how to play fullback in a 4-3-3 or a 3-5-2, the difference between a wingback and a fullback. That's what I would change. That's my thing is the reason why those California players are all so good and clever is because they play, I don't know if they're playing 50 games a season, but they're playing really high quality games, and all of them can manipulate the ball incredibly well. And that's my take on it.
And it's we're constantly fighting against ourselves because we go and we say, hey, you know what? We want to compete, but we won't go to California very often, right? But we want to compete. So what happens? I mean, you have people like Christian who generally you do 9v9s, yes?
Correct, yeah.
Do 9v9s, right? So what happens is if that were the case, where there's a true focus of we're not focused on the result. If the result comes, great. But we're going to focus on performance, like you and I have talked about. And if we can do that, then you don't end up with this endless cycle where we can have coaches that are all able to think like Christian, where he's developing the player. Because I've seen his teams, I've played his teams, right? And what I've realized is I don't blame coaches at U16, U17, U18, U19 for playing a really ugly style of soccer. I just don't. Like I look at it and I go, you had no choice because the coach who was coaching that team when they were 10 was trying to get the results. And so what does he or she do to get the results? Well, we have a big guy up top. So let's hit it up and let's run and let's kick a ball. And that same style of play is the same thing at 15, 16. And when that coach, who possibly could do something pretty nice with that team, goes and says, it's like high school soccer.
Yeah.
At 15, 16, 17, 18, when they get those players and they've never been taught those habits because a coach before them was just like, I want to win this trophy and we have to do this. So we're just going to hit it here and we're going to boom it. Every time we get a goal kick, we'll pass it to the guy and he'll hit it long and we run. It's like high school soccer. When you get a high school team, I don't know if you guys have ever coached high school, but you've played it. Your coach, I mean, I had a coach and he was my club coach and we played a good style. It was direct in club, but it's still a good style of soccer. In high school, he told us, forget everything in club, boot the ball. And why did he say that? Because he didn't have time to put a game model together. He didn't have time to help us work on our movements and everything. In high school soccer, you just say, let's do the most simplest thing that can make this team come together quickly without a ton of practice time and without a ton of time playing together because you're all coming from all these different teams, and let's play. And that's basically what 16, 17, 18-year-old teams, where you have the ECNL, you have the MLS Next here in Arizona, where they're saying, we have to somehow compete with a California team. So we're not going to beat them on skill because I don't have players like that because they weren't developed that way. So we're big, we're strong, we're fast. Well, if we're going to try and even the odds, let's just freaking hit it and try and body them out and let's get some shots.
Yeah.
And then that ends up with the players ending up at JUCO because college coaches look at it and go, okay, where's the skill?
Yeah. But by the way, dude, Zach, just to I see your point, but even on the best teams where everybody can play, one of those kids makes it pro.
Yeah.
Two of those kids make it pro.
Yeah.
Right? So I think at the end of the day, look, there's this big misconception or this is my take, my opinion, that the right way to play is build out the back and sideways passes inside the box. That to me, possession is a purpose on the field. I don't think we should be creating robots. And I think that possession style, building out the back, is a tool. Should be a tactical tool, I call it, in your tool chest, right? I don't think that should be the only way that you play, because you should be teaching players to make the right decisions, good decision makers. Is it a good decision for if a team is pressing with 5 to be doing sideways passes in the box? Right? So at that point, do you teach your team how to go a little bit more direct?
Yeah, read the game.
For instance, I'm sure you're teaching building out the back primarily, but do you see value in teaching kids just to play the game and the flow of the game, or do you teach a specific style?
Honestly, at the end of the day, it's a game. So in human nature, you're competitive. So you want to win the game, right? And the most basic rule of the game of soccer is outscore the opponent. Okay, that's just what it is. So given that, you're teaching the game. You got to play what the game is giving you. You got to play what the game is giving you. So obviously for me, I'm really big on the tactical kind of side of the game. But at the end of the day, like sometimes like you will win games, lose games based off of like, okay, like there's not really much you can do about that, right? Mistake, other team, whatever. So for me, when it comes to like teaching and playing the game, you got to teach kids scenarios of like, okay, well, for a great example, okay, you're trying to teach out of the back, okay, and you're overplaying out of the back. Well, at some point, the spaces are going to get closed down, and at some point, a 10 through 15-year-old is going to make a mistake. Okay, so then right then and there, is it a good idea to continuously do that when you're at the end of the day, it's a game, and you do want to compete, you do kind of want to win at the end of the day, because no one likes to lose. So it's just like, all right, well, you're playing out of the back, it's not kind of working. So then what's the next solution? And if you can't problem solve that, then at that point, for me, the coach put a disservice on the player if you're forcing them to do certain. But then I can understand the devil's advocate. It's like, hey, we want to play out of the back no matter what. Because by the time you hit X age, you're able to then do it. But what if the kid is not getting it? So I'm just like, well, then now you're still doing a disservice to the kid. So
what's the purpose of stringing together 700 passes and building out the back? Like every single time. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah. I mean, Johan Cruyff said it himself. He said, your job is to look up the field and find the guy furthest away from you.
Yeah,
and if he's open,
farthest safest pass.
Yeah, and if he's open, you find it. I mean, Man City, Ederson, Kun Aguero.
Oh, in the FA Cup final.
When he just freaking pinged it 70 yards.
They were better then, in my opinion, when they were a little bit more direct. Like,
I mean, if you look at it now, it's right now the hot topic team is Barcelona again, thankfully, because I'm a Barca fan, so I'm a little bit of biasness is in there. But you think about it, they had the whole that whole era of tiki taka, whatever the meaningless passes were. They're like, no. Well, the thing is, like, they were able to string along those passes, and they had the best freaking player generationally that can be able to execute like 9 times out of 10, right? But then now everyone's trying to implement that. Well, not everybody has that type of player.
Yeah, that's right.
So then now the hot topic of team right now is Barcelona. It's like, okay, well now with Hansi Flick, they're kind of direct, and I
love the way they play.
They play great. It's entertainment at the end of the day. So
vertical possession.
So you can possess, but that's what it is. You need to have moments of like, okay, have an idea, play how you want to play, but at the same time, like, okay, play what the game's giving you. For them, they see the players that they kind of have, the Lamine Yamal, they have the Rafinha, like, they're quick.
Yeah.
The Lewandowski, they play to feet.
Yeah.
But he can also go pretty direct as well. Like, he can run onto it.
That's right.
So then they can play those type of players.
That's the best thing that Barcelona does, dude, is they let their wings be wings. Like, they let them be creative, they let them be direct, they let them attack. The big mistake I think that Pep made this year is like he wants his wings to play possession style. Now all of a sudden, where's your threat? Where is your threat? I know that you want tap-ins from 6 feet away from the goal, but like doesn't work. Like,
you know, Jack Grealish is gonna dribble and then he's gonna cut back and pass it back.
That's right.
Like,
it's
the guy
too
doesn't
predictable.
really has to fully commit to defending Jack Grealish. And maybe the first year for Grealish, and then at Aston Villa, he was freaking cutting through people, getting it across, right? But now, I mean, there's videos kind of joking about it because he always just dribbles with the right, dribble with his right, dribbles outside the foot with his right, passes it back, goes out wide again, waits for it, dribbles right, cuts back. There's no threat there. So players know that they can make it compact and they don't have to worry about a cross coming in from that because they don't do it.
Dude. And by the way, like 10 to 14-year-olds shouldn't be playing that style. You're not going to learn anything playing that style. You're just going to be a robot. And that's the problem. I noticed a lot, like the anti-dribble club, I call it. It's like, let the kids dribble. Let them dribble. Let them learn how to make mistakes. And the most important thing is decision making, man. I see bad, poor, scrappy decision making. And like we talk about why aren't we competing anymore in Arizona? I think it's just a lot of it is just technical and decision making.
You know, even more so dribbling, one of the things that bugs me is very few clubs, coaches work on letting the kids run with the ball. It's all about dribbling. It's tap, 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 tap,
Right,
tap,
tight
tap, tap.
spaces.
And they're doing tap, 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 scissor. And I'm like, scissor is more running with the ball move. It's not a dribbling move.
It's a wing move too.
It's a big touch, running at full speed, scissor,
Right,
make
right.
the guy jump to a side and go. Like dribbling, that's tight spaces, that's V's, that's L's. That's not
Iniestas.
those aren't supposed to like, and they teach scissors in really slow motions. Like that's not really, I mean, sure you could do it, but it's not effective. Coming from someone as a defender, if you do a scissor standing still, I just go,
Cool.
okay, because I'm not gonna fall for you suddenly running that way. Like I'm gonna fall for it if I'm terrified and I have to guess at full speed, and you're going scissors, scissors, scissors. I'm like, and I jump at one, and then you clip it by me.
Yeah.
Right at full speed, and then I'm done for. Right, and I don't see enough club coaches. I don't see coaches at all, just in general, teaching running with the ball.
Yeah, like running at full speed with the ball.
Like the kids that I've been coaching for one of the teams I took over, like just teaching them, hey, I want you to run with the ball, and the ball is like literally 5 inches in front of them. I said, no, run with the ball. I want you to sprint. Do you ever play FIFA? And they're like, yeah. I'm like that. When you hit the little toggle stick and it hits it 10 yards in front. I'm like, or go watch Mbappe.
Yeah.
Mbappe takes a 15-yard touch and then sprints.
Yeah.
The kids don't do that enough. It's always stuck to their foot.
Yeah.
Like your old team, one of my teams scrimmaged them a couple weeks ago. Touch, 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 touch. I'm like, dude, if that kid knew how to take a big touch,
yeah, he'd be gone.
my player would be in trouble.
I mean, Austin does it. To be
Yes.
fair, Austin's
Yes, he
really
does.
good at it. But I think you're right. And to me, the best move. I just watched we lost Liverpool yesterday, but Connor Bradley did the most effective move. All he did was he looked up, like he was going to pass the ball, and then he took the touch with the outside of his foot. And I was like, that is how you run with the ball. That's how you beat somebody with the ball. It's a hesitation. You speed up, slow down, speed up, slow down. And you do that enough times, like they're just going to get dizzy. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's to me the best running with the move. I mean, running with the ball move is slowing down, speeding up, slowing down, speeding up. But you're right. But that's why I'm saying you got to especially wings and 9, like you got to let them run with the ball. Now, if you're a 6 or an 8, like know your role, especially like 10s, like man, sometimes I'll see some kids, they're like doing scissors and stuff at like the 8 or whatever in the middle of the field. And I'm like, that's not your job, dude. Like if you're a dude that loves doing scissors and all that, like just go play the wing, man. Like why do you want to be an 8? It's going to be boring for you if that's where your mind's at, you know? The 8 is more like beat the player with your first touch, like scanning 3 times more than every other player on the field, like, you know, turning the right direction with your first. It's to me, all those midfield positions all about how good is your first touch and how much are you scanning. But like those wing positions, it's like, man, go entertain, go create things, go take people on. I don't care if my wing loses the ball 4 or 5 times a game. I really could care less. Yeah. At least they're like going and being dangerous. They're stretching because as soon as you do that a few times, then you can invert. You can do all these things that like kind of trip out the defense, but only if you're a threat. If you start inverting and all that stuff, they're not going to even care if you're not, unless you're a threat, you know?
Could you imagine if you and me stopped that lefty, the 08 from dribbling?
Oh, yeah.
Could you imagine?
I played with him this weekend, and I just was like, I play wing, and so I inverted. I pick up the ball, and I see Fredo running down the right wing, and I just like hit like a 40-yard diag, and I was like, because in the Spanish league you say solo. I'm like solo, just yelling at him, and he just like went by himself, beat like 2 players, put it away.
Can you imagine if we said no,
yeah,
you got to pass more?
Yeah,
like parents on the sideline saying, "Get off the ball."
Yeah.
And I have to tell them, hey, don't listen to a word they just said. Just freaking play.
They're just jealous because their kid can't dribble.
Kid's nuts.
Well, I mean, I think to me, every player should, in any position, should learn how to dribble. And it doesn't matter, because if you can't pass your way out of it, well, to me, you have to pass your way out of it, dribble your way out of it. So as a center back, I play the 6 mainly, and as a center back as well, like the amount of times that a center back doesn't have an option for, like, they're just like, I can't play that ball. Well, then, all right, let's see the penetrating dribble. The 6, the penetrating dribble. Right, outside back, the penetrating dribble. Okay, the 8s and 10s, like literally, to me, every single one of those positions needs to be able to dribble. So I mean, yeah, that's to me, like, kind of going back to your point, like, knowing your role, yes, but at some point, like, all right, the best players are the ones that can problem solve, and if you can problem solve by passing your way out of it, or if you can dribble your way out of it, that to me is important.
Yeah.
Right. So I mean, that's just the full complete player. But we talk about you're talking about a certain player that are the unicorns, right? That the special, like, okay, like, there's not anybody can do that. So then, kind of like what you're saying is know your role. Like, all right, some parents, to your point, and some kids need to know. I mean, at some stages of their life, like, hey, you're not that unicorn.
Yeah, dude.
Like, you need to just do your role. That's it. And the quicker that you can find and like help guide those players of what their best attributes are, then you get then you can then start to fully get the best out of them. So if you have the unicorn, like, okay, it's like, don't listen to what they're saying. That you're helping them by telling, like, don't listen to them. But if, like, let's say the 8, to your point, is like trying to do something that, hey, that's know your lane. Like, know who you're coaching is what I'm trying to get at. Because at the end of the day, players are going to try to do certain things, but then you have to find the human aspect of, like, okay, at the end of the day, you're a child. Do it. Fine. Try that. But, like, hey, why not this? Why not that? That's the teaching moment. So then, and then they're like, well, why? He's like, well, here's why. So, I mean, I kind of say it in broad terms because in soccer, like, I like the game so much is because it's you can play devil's advocate. There's not one way of playing. Like, I enjoy all that stuff, but the thing is, like, well, we can all agree that we all have the right intentions of coaching, but it's identifying the players and identifying what their best attributes are, and then getting the best out of them from that. So for you as a coach, the quicker that you can identify what is the kid's best attributes are and help them get better with it. It's like, for me, like, I'm not gonna tell a stocks person, like, hey, tell me, I'm gonna run you the numbers. Like, hey, that's not my thing, right? Like, in this kind of like weird example, like, you're gonna tell a center back, like, hey, like, you're not great at dribbling, so pass your way out of it. You're gonna tell a winger, like, hey, you're not good at cutting inside and shooting. You're great at taking down the line and crossing. So how many more times should you do X compared to that? So that's just, to me, I think that for the majority of coaches, need to do a better job at, because at the end of the day, they are kids and they are human. And so you have to help guide them, in my opinion. So that's my point.
That's brilliantly said, dude. Yeah, I agree with everything you just said. Like, if you don't have that, like, don't coach. And that's just how I'm going to put it, is like, if you don't have the ability to look at a player and know what they're best at and try to help guide them, you're doing a huge disservice by even coaching at all. So, I mean, like, I wish there was more coaches like you out there, man, that, like, actually care about that kind of stuff. And they don't care, because all the results and all that kind of stuff, like, you're right when you said that, like, they do matter. But to me, the best results just come from caring about those things. And at the end of the day, I mean, I was watching the Vinny Jr. documentary on Netflix, and he was, like, on the most successful, I think it was Palmeiras. He was either on, or Flamengo. He was on, like, the most successful U17 Flamengo academy team, like, ever. And, like, 2 guys went pro. So, like, I was like, whoa, dude.
Perspective.
So yeah, I'll piggyback on it. That's why, to me, about the whole results and stuff like that, at the end of the day, like, you got to give the kids, families, the best experience as you possibly can.
Yep.
So, like, if you kind of, like, take away results out of it, like, at the end of the day, like, no one's gonna care, like, what you won at U12,
Yeah.
U10, that trophy. Like, hey, look, it's great. Don't get me wrong, but then there's another side to everything. So, for example, you won that, but then you probably had a kid that didn't play as much. So then that family and that kid didn't have that great experience of winning that trophy at U10 because you didn't play them.
Yeah.
So to me, it's like, I like to win.
Yeah.
But we all have been in a position where, like, okay, we've won something, but you felt like you weren't a part of. So, like, being inclusive to every kid. Don't get me wrong, like we all will make mistakes, and at the end of the day, like you're gonna get into those moments like, okay, like you're looking at your watch and you're just like, okay, there's X amount of time left. It is a high stakes game. Should I put the player in? Like, to me, whatever kid that you get, like, you got to play them.
100%. If you put him on the team, you got to play him, dude.
Yeah. And so, just finishing it up is just that you got to give every kid the best experience as possible. And that's just what I believe in. And so, how can you captivate every single player in every training environment, every game that you do? Are you going to win them all? No. Like, in terms of not even the result, I'm saying, like, you're going to win them, all the kids and families. You're not. You're not going to, what's the right word? You're not going to
be universally loved.
Correct. So then, but at the end of the day, as long as you kind of stick to what you believe in and think of the bigger picture, like what matters most is, okay, we kind of go back to like development. All right, that's the way I believe I should develop players, not just by winning. And I mean, don't get me wrong, if you want to just win, great, fine. By all means do it. But then look at the long-term like effect of it, of the kid. Like, they'll look back at you and just be like, well, I did not like this person. So I'm not, the amount of times, I'm pretty sure you've seen it, like the amount of times that you go out in public, you're at the fields or just somewhere and you see like a kid run up and you're just like, I have never seen you in street clothes.
Yeah. And
they come up to you, it's like, hey, like, and those little things to me like matter the most.
That's what it's all about, dude.
And so, like, there's many coaches I've had that I'm like, if I see them in public, I'm walking the other way.
Right.
There's no way so I don't want to be that coach.
I just want to leave it on this. Parents, if 99% of everything is going great for your kid, don't complain about the 1% of things that aren't going your way, because that can also be very annoying. I feel like a lot of like, just to wrap it up, dude, it's been an awesome episode. Thank you for coming, but we got to like get rid of the culture of like, I think that you put your whole heart and soul into your job. So do you. And so do I. And we still got people that complain. It's like, and I feel like they're complaining about things that don't matter. Coaches do it as well. But like, I think just in life in general, like if you got a lot of things going really well for you, don't find that one thing that's not, and then bitch about it.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Anyways, it's been a great episode. Christian, thanks for coming on, dude.
Yeah, for sure. I enjoyed it.
You're the man.
We'll do it again.
Yeah, appreciate you guys.